Hello everyone and welcome to GregHoferMedia.com. I'm Greg Hofer. My next guest is a two-time Executive of the Year in the Midwest League. He's in his 21st year, all with the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, the Class A affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, his 14th as the club president. My next guest is Rob Zerjav. Rob, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks, Greg.
Really want to take a different approach with this. I want to we'll get to the season, the 2016 season that you got coming up here in a little bit, but kind of want to retrace the steps. I'm always fascinated by the stories of the athletes and the coaches and the front office people and how they got to where they are, and that's kind of what I want to do here tonight. And so Ashwaubenon, class of 1993, you grow up basically about a mile from Lambeau Field. So you had to have been a football guy, right?
Yeah, no, it's funny now that I work in baseball, because growing up all through grade school, anytime you did a class project or what are you going to be when you grow up, I'm going to be a baseball player. Baseball was my life. I was the one kid in Green Bay again, I was a Packer fan, but nothing compared to baseball. I get the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and all I do is just get excited to see a baseball story, a Brewer story, which there weren't a ton of at the time, and there was no other way to get your baseball information. And so I grew up always a baseball fan, again, you ask anybody I grew up with, they'd say it's no shock that I'm somehow working in baseball.
Where did that, or how and where did that love affair with the sport begin?
Honestly, I have no idea, because my dad, he played 3 sports in high school, but football was his big sport. Basketball was his next. Baseball was kind of was there, but I really honestly don't know. I think back, it's just always been that way. I don't know if it was a pack of baseball cards. I don't know what it is. I just always remember playing baseball, being in love with it, and I honestly don't know. Again, being in Green Bay too, that was just crazy that's how it worked out.
Because, not only a mile from Lambeau Field, but you go to Ashwaubenon High School. Of course, Ashwaubenon known for their football program, four times, state champs, 6 times, in the state championship game. So Ashwaubenon, a big football school. How was the baseball program? Ashwaubenon was everything but a baseball powerhouse. Softball was big. Football was obviously big. Baseball, not so much. Actually, when I was playing, I think it was my senior year, we were ranked pretty high in the state. And honestly, you look at the team that we had, I want to say there was 3 players on that team, three of the starters that didn't go on to play college baseball. I was one of them. The other 2 was Aaron Stecker, who went on to play in the NFL, and the other one I believe was Ryan Borowicz, who ended up playing basketball at UWGB. So we were a pretty talented group, and our 2 pitchers both got drafted in the major leagues, one by the Brewers and then one by the California Angels after college for them. So a lot of talent there, but I just couldn't put it together on the field. So you want to work in baseball, you're in high school. Was there any teacher specifically, or was there something in high school that kind of inspired you and set you on your way?
Honestly, no. It's funny, and I feel bad. I was always big on, school is a necessity, and it was, I know I'm going to college. I need to do well in high school so I can get into a good college. I need to get done with college just to get a job. And my whole goal was always just get done with school, because I wanted to start a career. I wanted to get out of school to start a life. Again, I feel bad. I go and talk to colleges all the time, and I feel bad with the professor sitting there, but I look at it as college was kind of a piece of paper. And I'm more into life experience and what you learn and the kind of person you are, your work ethic. And to me, school was all about kind of getting out of school. If I could name a teacher, English teacher, Mrs. Niemela in high school, I always liked her. But otherwise, it was a matter of I was in school to get done with school.
So you graduate 1993 from Ashwaubenon High School. You're looking for colleges. You end up at UW-Whitewater. What was it about UW-Whitewater, and were there any other schools that you considered?
Yeah, that's funny too. It leads back to baseball. I was accepted at UW-Madison and UW-Whitewater as well. I knew Whitewater had a good business program. Looked at both schools, and it really came down to my naivete of thinking, hey, I could play baseball. And Madison didn't have a baseball program, Whitewater did. So I said, you know what, I like the class size, I like it, it's a smaller university, you don't get lost. Cost was a little bit better than going down to Madison. And figured I'd give playing in baseball a try at Whitewater, and I wasn't going to get that chance at Madison. So again, baseball interwove itself into my life, and kind of one of the reasons I chose Whitewater.
In Whitewater, a town of about 14,000, student population of about 12. What was it like going to UW Whitewater?
It was crazy, you know, honestly. It was, there was some homesickness. You get there, and not that Green Bay is a thriving metropolis, but Whitewater, you know, you wanted to feel like home. You go to the Walmart, that was brand new, and there was a Walmart, there was a McDonald's, and really not much else. So it was, again, kind of fit my mode of getting done with school, because it was also a kind of a suitcase college. A lot of kids were local, would go home on the weekends, and I was from Green Bay, so I wouldn't. And there was really nothing to do in your dorm room other than study and figure out how am I going to get done with school as fast as I can and get on to something.
Now UW Whitewater, it's kind of gone on to national prominence here especially over the last decade. You know, the football program has, you know, won multiple national championships. Baseball has won a couple. Basketball, I believe, has 4 national championships. So athletically across the board, it's an excellent school.
Yeah, and again, I'd love to say that's the reason I didn't make the baseball team my freshman year, is because they were such a powerhouse. But now, again, back when I was in school, in the early to mid '90s, okay, but nothing like they are now, and take a lot of pride. I mean, it's great to look back and now see what they're accomplishing. And I want to say they were one of the only schools, if not the only school, to ever win football, basketball, and baseball in the same season. Have championships in all of them. And so yeah, I take pride in the fact I'm from UW Whitewater, and you know, I have a lot of friends that have gone to other schools or to Madison, and they pump their chest when they talk about the Badgers and going on to Final Fours and their success in football. But you know, I say we've got all these national championships at Whitewater, so happy with that.
And there are some pretty famous alum. Of course, Craig Kashan went to UW Whitewater. He now takes care of the Brewers pre and post game. Eric Studsville, doing my research, he's the running backs coach for the Denver Broncos. Of course, they just won the Super Bowl. And Bob Wickman, and you probably would have missed him by a couple of years, yep. But a part of the baseball program. So a pretty distinguished alumni group athletically, as you might expect.
There's quite a few when you look through the list, and whether it's coaches or players that have gone on to professional careers. So it's impressive. So it's nice to kind of be lumped into that group too. And again, Whitewater has a great business program, and I feel good about having the degree from there, and think it's helped me throughout my career.
Now, one of the places in doing the research about UW Whitewater, a school I've never been to, I come across this Hamilton House, 1979 Animal House movie, but with John Belushi, loosely based on the Hamilton House.
Yeah, that's another thing to take some pride in. And again, you hear the stories when you're there, and you drive by on Main Street and you point out, oh, okay, there's the house that Belushi was at when he was at school, when he went to school there, and that's what they modeled Animal House. Again, I don't know how true the rumors all were, but yeah, that was one of the things you'd hear one of the first times you're on campus, and that's the house that they point out. I can say my college days were not that exciting or that crazy, but yeah, again, it's always fun to look back at that movie and think, hey, there's a little connection to Whitewater there too.
To your point, 4 years you graduate from college with a business degree, so you buckled down, got that piece of paper, as you say. 1997 comes along, you move on, you're applying for internships, you end up here. How did you end up with the Timber Rattlers as an intern in 1997?
Yeah, kind of crazy. Again, and I could have graduated in 3.5 years, and I decided, you know what, I'll just take it easy that last year and just take a couple of credits and just try to enjoy my senior year. And I guess everything works out, and again, it's the good Lord looking out, and it's baseball in my life, and it's. I applied for an internship with the Timber Rattlers. I talked to my career counselor for the first time my senior year down at Whitewater, and wish I would have done it a lot sooner, but he said, hey, what are your interests? And I talked about sports and baseball specific, and he said, well, didn't they just build a new stadium up there kind of when you go home to Green Bay right on the highway? And I said, oh yeah, actually they did. And he asked if I ever applied for a job with the Timber Rattlers, and I said, no, that's a great idea. So I called up and I talked to Mary Robinson, who's still in our front office, and said there was no full-time jobs, but they were hiring interns. So I applied for an internship, and my resume got lost, and I called back to follow up, and they said, oh, we never got the resume. So I personally stopped in and dropped my resume off and called back in a couple weeks, and they said they never got my resume. And I said, well, I stopped in there, and I dropped it off specifically and with you, and apparently they had got it mixed up. There was 2 Garys at the time, and one Gary had it and the other one was hiring, and how it got mixed up. But honestly, I think that's the only reason I got brought in for an interview, is because they felt bad. And they brought me in for an interview, and the assistant GM at the time, Gary May, his background was in groundskeeping. And for whatever reason, I decided to change up my resume a little bit, and I put down the fact that I had cut grass in the summer and lined baseball fields. Figured, hey, there's kind of a loose baseball tie there, to go along with my internship I had while I was at Whitewater and some other things I was really proud of. I want to say we spent 90% of the time talking about cutting grass, and so now I think getting this job to cutting grass in the summer and just having that connection with the person that was interviewing me, and so yeah, Gary brought me on as an intern that summer, and I just fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Now, you start as an intern. Of course, everybody that's on the outside looking in, thinks of all the glitz and the glamour of pro baseball. How quickly did you realize it's not all the glitz and glamour that it's made out to be?
Yeah, I guess, minor leagues, I guess I thought it was going to be probably not the same as a major league career. And again, when I first started, I thought, okay, this will be my foot in the door. I want to go work in the majors. This is a great way to start. Within 2 weeks, I said, no, I love everything about it. And I guess I was raised to, have a strong work ethic, work hard, work for what you want. And so I loved the fact that I could be in every single aspect of what we were doing. I'd be in the ticket office during the day, and I'd try to help out during games wherever I could, whether it's promotions or on the dugout or handing things out, or if it's fixing things around the stadium. Wherever they needed me, I was happy to help, and I wanted to learn as much as I could. Our GM at the time, Mike Burling, was, I want to say, 23 or 24 years old, so only a couple years older than I was. So I saw that you could be, on the top position at an early age. So I said, okay, I better start, learning this craft, learning what it's all about, because who knows when my opportunity could come. I don't have to wait till I'm 40 or 50 years old to run a minor league baseball team. And so I worked as hard as I could, but you do realize right away, it's pulling tarp, and it's a lot of jobs that you wouldn't think of. It's working 14, 15 hours a day. I remember that summer, my buddies had said, hey, we're going to go take a camping trip, and we know your schedule's busy, so we'll kind of work around it. And they said, we're looking to go in June, so you just tell us when we can go. And just by what chance that June we had games every weekend, and back then we weren't ever allowed to take a game off. And I said, hey, I can't do it. I work every day in June. They said, how do you work every day in June? I said, we have a game every weekend in June, and during the week you can take games off. If you didn't have a game, you work 9 to 5. And I said, this is the start of my career. And I said, I'd love to go, but I work. So it was 30 straight days. So that's the kind of stuff that I guess you learn right away. If you can work in baseball, you learn as an intern. And that's why we kind of like to hire from within, because we have a lot of people that think, yeah, I'd love to work in baseball. But if they haven't done it, you start working. And we hired a couple people in the past that didn't have that background, and then they just couldn't believe that you'd work 7 days in a row or 10 days in a row. And when am I going to get an off day? And well, when you have games, that's your job. That's the people you're trying to please. And if you're not here, you don't know what they like. So it took a little bit of getting used to, but again, it was so fun, and we were so young at the time, and coming up through minor league baseball at that time, everybody was young, and it was exciting, and every idea we had was brand new. And yeah, it was just, it's fun to look back and say it was kind of a party every night. I still don't know how I did it, to work those many hours, and you have a couple of drinks after the game, and then you get back into the ballpark right away. And I don't know how I lived, but yeah, it's been my life now, and it's changed a little bit, and hours have changed, and we've tried to slow that down a little bit. But yeah, it's been quite a ride.
So you go from an unpaid intern to the group sales department, where you spend a couple of years. How was the group sales experience for you?
It was good. That was one thing I told myself in college. I don't want to be a salesperson. And I had a marketing degree, and what I've come to find out, and I tell kids all the time, is basically you're going to be a salesperson if you work in sports, or that's how you're going to get your start. And I realized right away that selling baseball, selling something that you love is a lot different than selling something you don't believe in. And I really believed in our product and the family atmosphere and the entertainment that we provide, kind of wrapped all around the baseball game. So it was kind of an easy thing to do. And I was in group sales for 2 years, and said, it's time for me to move to a different position and grow my career, not because I wasn't happy in group sales, but just knew if I wanted to be a GM someday, you have to keep going up the ladder. And again, it's funny when you're in a career now, and I've been here for 21 years, to not jump around and to make your way up. And at that time, Gary Mays, who had hired me earlier, was the assistant GM and had just left to take a job with the Dayton Dragons. And the opportunity came up to fill his position in baseball and stadium operations. And I got that opportunity, and that was a great time too. Absolutely loved it, being involved with the team and daily working as a liaison between our team and the Seattle Mariners, and working with our game day staff and hiring our game day staff and hiring our interns. Honestly, it was probably my favorite job of all time, and I still go back to that now, and I still find that to be the fun part. You can't get me to stop going around the stadium and seeing what needs to be fixed or dealing with the team. It's something I think I'll always kind of be a part of my job, just because I enjoy it so much.
Now there's a front office shakeup in 2002. You're named the interim president, which leads to your current role as the full-time president. What was that process like?
It was interesting because we were struggling a little bit at the time. I didn't know what was going to happen, and there was a change that was made at the top in 2002, and I was put in charge on an interim basis in July, knowing we kind of had a month and a half left, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of show what I could do. You obviously inherit the staff you have, and everything's in place for the most part, but it was a matter of what can we do to kind of salvage the season, grow attendance, put some things in place. At the same time, I wasn't officially in charge, so it's trying to rally this group of people that were unsure of what their career was going to be, if they were still going to be with the organization, and listening to, at the time, a 26-year-old who was just put in charge of this organization. But it went well. It went really well. We finished the season really strong, had some really nice attendance dates. We are governed by a volunteer board of directors, and we're a community-owned team. So at the end of the year, the board had opened up the position and had quite a few people apply. I applied as well and went through that interview process. And I appreciate that. I look back on that now. Mike Weller, who was our chairman of the board at the time, and was running Miller Electric here locally, said this would be the best thing for me after I had gotten the job, saying, we thought it was important that we opened it up and didn't just hand you the job. We wanted to, look at all the candidates, see that you were the right one for the job. And at the time you said, hey, I am the right one for the job. Just give it to me. And so I really appreciate that. I went through that process and was hired it was great. Again, we brought in a lot of different people on our staff and really grew. It was kind of like a family. Again, we were just, I look back and I say kid, but just young kids and had the keys to the kingdom and whatever ideas we could come up with and developed a lot of really good friendships, and it was a lot of fun those first few years putting it all together and how we were going to manage this place and how we were going to grow the organization, and to see where we've come now. There's been a lot of hard work by a lot of people to make it what we have now.
So you, in effect, were Greg Gard before Greg Gard was Greg.
I guess, hopefully you'll have the success that I've had.
But not intimidating at all? I mean, you said you're 26 years old, president of a professional baseball team. That's pretty impressive, and when you really take a step back and take a look at it, that's a pretty big gig for a person of 26 years of age. Yeah,
I guess I looked at it as, again, you're too young to understand what you're getting into, and again, I thought, my predecessor, when I was first hired as an intern, Mike, who had gone on he left the organization to run the Durham Bulls, and he was 24 at the time, so I said, okay, he did it, and I'm older than he is. I look back now and I say, there's a lot of things I would have done differently, or I could have handled that better, and but yeah, it was good for me to learn. It was a good opportunity. But yeah, you're so young, you don't understand what you're getting into. And but yeah, I thank our board. I thank Mike Weller for that opportunity, and he was a mentor. So I had some really good people around me to help me, and they were there and still there to kind of guide me when I have questions.
So now you enter your 21st year, your 14th as president. The biggest change in the job from when you first got the president's job to now where you're at today? I know the staff obviously has doubled in size. That would be one thing, but anything else that stands out in terms of job responsibilities then versus job responsibilities now?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. Our staff has basically doubled since when I first was here, and we're such a year-round business now. We renovated the stadium and expanded it in 2013. We had our club level, our banquet area, and we're basically open every day of the year if we have an event going on. So that's a little bit different. I remember when there was truly an off season when I first started, where you'd kind of take some downtime, and you get into the fall and it's slower, and the holidays, you take time off over Christmas, and you really ramp back up in January. Well, now the season ends, it's planning, it's reviewing the previous year, it's putting everything in place. We have banquets going on. That's when we really hit wedding season, so there's a lot of things going on at the ballpark. We're trying to use the facility as much as we possibly can. And the off season really isn't there anymore. It just kind of keeps snowballing, and so yeah, I mean those are probably the biggest things. Just the growth of the business and the organization, and how minor league baseball has matured. It started as such a mom and pop organization, and when we first started, we had 10, 12 people in the front office staff. Everybody was really young, single. Nobody had a family, and it's changed so much now, where virtually everybody on staff is married. There's kids running around. There's all these little kids around here, and when I first started, it was basically the kiss of death. If you get married, okay, well, there's, you're gonna have a hard time being in baseball. You have kids, well, you're gonna never have any time to be with your family. So it was pretty much get out of baseball, and things have evolved, and that's been really nice because you can really make it more of a career now, and so that's been a good thing, and has allowed me to stay with the Timber Rattlers and continue to grow, and bring other people on that have been able to have this as a career as well.
And the Midwest League also has expanded. Back in the day, there was 14 teams, and now in the last decade or so, they've added several. You've expanded into Kentucky, into Ohio. How's that been for the Timber Rattlers with the expansion of the league overall?
It's been fine. I know it's caused some issues with travel. Again, getting down into Kentucky and Ohio, we're kind of pushing the limits. Fortunately for us, we split into two divisions. We're in the West Division, so most of our travel is just consistent here in Wisconsin, Illinois, and in Iowa. So we kind of stay over in this part of the state, of the three states. Occasionally we'll travel over. We don't hit every team anymore. We used to play every team home and away. We stopped doing that. So our travel has been okay. I know it's been a bit of a struggle in the East, where there is some long travel. There's some minor league rules where you can't travel over 500 miles in a day and still play a game, and we run into those, and putting a schedule together becomes sort of difficult, but otherwise it's a great league to be in. We've continued to grow. I want to say it's one of the strongest leagues in the entire country, whether it's single A or triple A. We've got a lot of great operators, a lot of great cities, a lot of great facilities. So I take a lot of pride being a part of that, and having my fellow GMs and then the owners in the league that just do a fantastic job, and really progressive, and just really proud of our league as a whole.
Two things I want to touch on here that I really love about the Rattlers. Number one, the affiliation change, 2009. Now I know Seattle treated the Rattlers extremely well, gave them a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches, all those kinds of things. But you make the switch in 2009 to the Brewers, and it's been a pretty good marriage, I would guess.
Yeah, it has. I mean, and that was tough. We were with the Mariners for 16 years. The one thing that made it a little bit easier, a lot of the people that we had gotten to know, Pat Gillick, Benny Looper, a lot of the roving instructors, coaches had actually moved on at the time. There was a new regime with the Mariners. They were running their operation a little bit different. The minor league affiliates weren't as important as it was previously. And yeah, then the opportunity to become a Brewers affiliate was presented, and obviously makes a lot of sense with our proximity. You started to see a lot of teams around that time look to get to kind of go with their home state team. West Michigan was a team we talked to quite a bit, and they're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're affiliated with the Tigers, and just talked about all the benefits that they're afforded because of that. Just more of an interest in the team as a whole. The community knows these players. They see who's drafted. You get rehab assignments, and you're having big leaguers come to your park. So yeah, that's been fantastic. So everything we could have hoped for, it came true times 10. That first year in 2009, our attendance jumped from roughly a little over 200,000 to 250,000. I remember our first major league rehab was Dave Bush, and at the time it was the biggest deal in the world. We ended up selling an extra, I feel like it was almost like 3,000 tickets just because Dave Bush was going to pitch for us that day. So yeah, it's been great then to see the players come through here and then make it on to the big leagues, and whether it's going on to play with a different team or play out with the Milwaukee Brewers. And a player like Brett Laurie, or you look at the Brewers and Scooter Gennett and Willie Peralta and Jimmy Nelson, and you just start listing them all, and now you look at the Brewers 40-man roster, and I want to say half of them have come through Appleton.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I know the wins haven't always been there overall, team success-wise, but when you run down the list, you've got Kane and Laurie that were here in 09. Lorenzo Kane, obviously a great player now for the Royals, part of that Zach Greinke trade. Chris Davis and Scooter Gennett now are in the big leagues. They were part of that team. In 2010, Thornburg and Nelson, a couple of guys that are now in the big leagues with the Brewers, they were there. So you've had some pretty impressive players that have come through here. And seeing them before they're stars has got to be kind of neat.
It is, because you get to know them a little bit better. It was kind of neat to see, again, Scooter, when he was here, he was 19. Great hitter, again, was just unique, again, with the name, but just his stature. He's a shorter guy, somebody that, kids could really get around, and you still see that with the Brewers because he just seems like he's a kid out there. But getting to know him a little bit, and then he did a rehab with us this year, and to have him come back and, just talk about and see the improvements that we've made to the ballpark, and just really neat to see that they still appreciate the fact, and they know they played for the Timber Rattlers and take some pride in that. And so again, that's just another reason that the proximity works for us. And we think it helps the Brewers as well, because you're seeing these players here, you get attached to them, and then when they make it to the Brewers, you were so close to them here. I think our fans think, hey, I need to go see them down in Milwaukee because I know that guy. I got his autograph, or I saw him play, and you have a story to tell. And so I really think it's been a really a win-win partnership for all of us.
And in 2012, first championship in the Midwest League since 1984 when they were the Appleton Foxes. Probably a pretty memorable year for you, I would guess.
It was, because it started with I think everybody in the Brewers organization apologizing to me, telling me that we're sorry, we know this isn't going to be a talented team. This is the layer that we have right now. There's just this open spot where there's a lot of guys at high A, there's guys that aren't ready for your league, and they just sent us a bunch of guys. And sometimes it's teams like that just gel, they play well as a team. And it was just a fun ride because it just started snowballing. And then when we got to the end of the season, we were just a powerhouse. You just felt, had this confidence. And it was an older team, which I think helped, a lot of college-age guys. And I'll never forget it. At Fort Wayne, it was went down there and ended up winning it down in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And I still remember I was down with George Spelius down in the tunnel, and we pretty much knew we were going to win the game. And he had given me the trophy, and I was going to carry it out and present Matt Erickson with it. And I still remember, being in the tunnel thinking, this is crazy. We haven't won the championship in so long. And everything was coming together. We won the championship. We're doing stadium renovations. And that was what was really funny is we were looking to tear down half the stadium, and we couldn't because the season just kept going on. And when we won the championship and got back here, pretty much the entire stadium was shut down. You weren't allowed to go through it except for the home clubhouse. And we told the guys, get in, get your stuff out, because tomorrow they're tearing this place down. And it was just crazy that was the year that we'd go all the way, and the year that we needed to get done as soon as we could. Just extremely memorable. Everything about that year was just a lot of fun.
And the other thing I really enjoy about this stadium, to me, it's the crown jewel of this area, and how modern it is. The renovations, you've added this beautiful, stadium club level, new field, new scoreboard. There's always things that are being done to update it. The clubhouses and the things that the fans don't see, the front offices and what have you. It's an absolutely gorgeous stadium. How do you process and determine the renovation that you're going to undertake that particular year?
Well, honestly, yeah. We're a community-owned team, so we don't have an owner. We don't have an owner that has deep pockets that says, what are we going to build this year? Here's $2 million. Everything we do is self-sustaining. We don't fundraise. It's, we have to sell tickets, we have to sell concessions, sell sponsorships. That's how we keep this place running. And honestly, this renovation, we undertook a $6.5 million renovation in 2012. And it was probably 10 years in the making. I mean, just visions and seeing what other teams are doing, and tweaking things here and there, and what would be the most efficient way to get everything we wanted. We knew we wanted a luxury space. We knew we wanted a year-round space. We knew we needed suites. We knew we wanted a bigger store. Our merchandise sales were in the top 25 in minor league baseball for the last 20 out of 21 years, and we needed a bigger store. We needed a bigger clubhouse, and needed all of these things. And how do we piece it all together to be as efficient. Because you think $6.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking some of these new ballparks are $35, $45 million, you know, we had to really stretch 6.5 to get what we wanted. And I feel really good about what we kind of got out of that project. So now we do have a vision. You know, the video board was important at the time, and again, it's technology. Our next project, again, it's looking at what other stadiums are doing, and the one thing we're lacking here is a 360-degree concourse. So a lot of it isn't rocket science, but it's just, you know, what would be a good amenity to get people to move around? What are other ballparks doing? And taking kind of the best of what we find from other places. Again, listening to our customers. During this renovation, another big thing, you know, your lines at the concessions are too long, bathroom lines are too long. So how do we deal with that? We doubled the number of restrooms, we expanded our concession stands. It's really listening to the fans, and again, you know, I'd like to think that, or say, hey, I'm a genius, but it's the fans tell you, as long as you're listening to what they want and you give it to them, then they're happy. So it always works out.
Now, more than just the 70 Rattler games that you have here, you have the Division III World Series, you have the WIA State Tournament. We talked about, you know, the weddings and the Christmas parties and the different things that you have here. How do those factor into your, you know, to your schedule in terms of trying to create a balance between your life, you know, personal life and your professional life?
That's actually, it's changed a lot. I mentioned, you know, we worked 30 straight days in June back when I was an intern, and we've really pushed to have our staff take time off. We're really big in the customer service business, and we kind of preach to everybody now, you're not going to be at the top of your game if you're tired all the time. So we really try to get people time off, and we try to make sure that we use people's time the best, and you don't have to clock watch, you don't have to be here till 5 o'clock if you've got your job done. We encourage people to take games off. We've really, again, with the expanded staff, it's allowed us to have people that their jobs have overlapped a little bit. So if I miss a game, our assistant GM can step in and kind of fill my role for that day, and vice versa. Then he can take a game off and I'm filling his role for that day. So you try to balance your work and your personal life. But we do have a lot of events, and it is using the stadium, and we have only so much limited time being in Wisconsin where we can use the field. So the state baseball tournament is fantastic. We love having it here. The NCAA Division III World Series is a great tournament. Both we're going on, you know, pretty close to 20 years on both of those. Jordy Nelson has his softball game here, which is great for the community, great for his charity. But yeah, we're working all those into our games. We play 70 Timber Rattler games. We're trying to fit weddings in. Honestly, once we hit April, we don't have a single weekend that this stadium isn't being used through October. There's something always going on every Friday and Saturday here at the ballpark, and we're getting into the concert business this year. And again, when you think concerts, you usually think Fridays and Saturdays, but we had no options. So next best thing was a Thursday. So we're looking to do a concert on a Thursday night in July this year. And again, anything to utilize the ballpark, and if it's, you know, the more success we have, the more we can add to the stadium. And again, that's a nice thing about, you know, there's drawbacks from not having an owner, but the nice thing is too, the more money we can generate here, the more we can just, it all goes right back into the ballpark. There's nobody that says, you know what, I need to take my $500,000 this year and go off to, you know, my summer home. It's everything we make goes right back here, which is a really kind of a neat thing, and it makes you feel good about what we're doing here and in this community and trying to give back.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Kenny Chesney concert that comes out here at some point.
Yeah, I don't know if we're that big.
But anyway, 2016, what do the fans have to look forward to besides an absolutely gorgeous field that you have? You put in and actually donated your old field to different various high schools. So they got the new field. Of course, you're going to have perfect 70-degree weather all season long. And I know I read something about new concession offerings, about a grilled chicken sandwich or grilled cheese chicken sandwich. So anything in terms of this year, the fans to look forward to?
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of things. We always try to spice things up, and food has become the big kind of hot button topic in sports, and no different for us. We have an executive chef on staff. That's changed too. When we first started, we didn't do our own food and beverage. You served hot dogs, and I don't think we served hamburgers, hot dogs and brats at the ballpark, and now we have an executive chef, and you name it, we can sell it. But he's come up with some really great creations. Last year, kind of national acclaim for our Big Mother funnel. It was 2 funnel cakes with a full pound burger, bacon, lettuce, cheese and you know, that you know, bigger the better, I guess. And we had the grilled cheese double cheeseburger, which was a huge success. And again, it's Wisconsin, so cheese on everything. And this year we had a contest for fans to submit their creations. We had 5 really unique creations, a couple with utilizing donuts for the buns of a burger. And again, the one that ended up winning was the grilled cheese chicken sandwich. Again, everything has to have cheese, and grilled cheese, as long as your buns are grilled cheese, I think, you know, I guess you can't go wrong in Wisconsin. So yeah, the food's going to be something here. Some new promotions. Our Thursday, we've dubbed craft brews and brats. Again, big craft beer movement in the entire country, and we'll be featuring a lot of new craft beer here at the stadium. We're going to incorporate brats with that, so you can come out for on Thursdays and get those for $2. But then we're really excited about our team. The Brewers have a new GM. He's made a lot of trades for a lot of young talent, and a lot of young talent that's probably going to be coming through this way. They've had a couple of really good drafts, and we're expecting to see a pretty good team on the field, so we're excited about that. And who knows, maybe that championship number 2 for the Timber Rattlers.
So no carrots and celery with this good baseball team then?
You know, again, no, we're coming up with a couple of salad options actually in the next couple of weeks that we've been working on, and we have something for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you, gluten-free is a big thing too. We've got a lot of offerings for gluten-free. So no, you don't have to come out here and eat terribly. You can actually come out and eat pretty healthy now at the ballpark too. Well,
Rob, I appreciate your time. Good luck this season.
Thanks, Greg.
That is Timber Rattler President Rob Zerjav. Our thanks to Rob for joining us here this evening. The Timber Rattlers, they'll be in Beloit to open their 2016 baseball season on Thursday, April 7th, and then the home opener is here at Neuroscience Field on Saturday, April 9th at 4:05 p.m. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Greg Hofer. We'll see you next time.